We're here in Camden Lock, site of one of London's busiest markets, to explore the ideas of Max Horkheimer. The book Critique of Instrumental Reason is a series of lectures and short writings that Horkheimer composed upon his return to Germany in the 1950s. And it deals with questions such as what is the situation of the customer in contemporary consumer capitalism. I want to look at Horkheimer's concept of instrumental reason. To understand what instrumental reason is, we first have to understand something about reason. Reason is the great idea of the Enlightenment. It posits that humans should use their own judgment, their own capacity to think in order to decide what is right and what is true and what should be done. It represented a rejection of superstition and custom and reliance on the authority of church or king or feudal overlord. It sets in train the emergence of a notion of human freedom, or even in a sense the growth of the notion of the individual who is a thinking being who takes responsibility for his or her own actions. What Horkheimer perceives from this, though, is that over time, over a couple of hundred years, reason becomes increasingly instrumentalized. Horkheimer sees the ways in which reason goes into reverse, in a sense, the ways in which enlightenment becomes a new mythology, how humans bow down before new deities, new gods, such as the commodity or technology or number. These abstractions that come to rule over human beings become new mythic entities for him. Horkheimer also sees through this process the emergence of the market, and the market comes to pervade everywhere. A commodity logic is set in train, which becomes the only logic. The value of everything is its value upon the market. Horkheimer had observed the ways in which the Enlightenment brought about a growth of individuality. By the 1940s, Horkheimer and Adorno were identifying something called pseudo-individuality, which is no sort of individuality at all. That's why it's interesting to be here in Camden Lock, apparently a site of an efflorescence of individuality. But if we look at its history, we can see something interesting. It begins as perhaps legitimately some sort of counter-cultural site where outsiders might come to compendium books and find books that they couldn't find elsewhere. Some years down the line, though, perhaps this is the ultimate home of pseudo-individuality, that the people who come here think they are expressing themselves in their uniqueness, and they buy from an array of stalls endless outfits that might express a particular niche that they're slotting themselves into. They're not considering the identical conditions of manufacture that's most usually the case in purchasing this or that leather jacket, this or that t-shirt. It's a place in which one might pick one's deviancy off the peg, which is perhaps as pseudo-individualistic a gesture as one could make. Horkheimer raises the question of happiness and suffering. Today, we're expected to believe that happiness is constituted by our freedom to use the market. Horkheimer raises happiness and suffering as a political and a social question. Perhaps he allows us to think that happiness might be constituted in something beyond the market, something made out of social bonds and human community, something different to all this.